Welcome to the Infuse Compassion podcast, hosted by me, Amy Quisenberry.
And me, Mark Carpenter.
We are on a mission to make this world a kinder place for us all by bringing healthier human connection to communities, families, and organizations of all types and sizes.
Our goal is to create stronger relationships, more inspired teams, increased trust, and improved results.
So let's get started with more ways to infuse compassion into our world.
Welcome, Compassionators. So glad you've joined us for this episode of the Infuse Compassion podcast. I think that you will be really happy that you tuned in this week to hear our guest. Is a wonderful person. It's a friend of Amy's for a while, and she's introduced her to me. And I just think she's brilliant, and she's going to give us some great content today. So putting that bar really, really high, I'll hand it over to Amy to introduce Jen to our audience.
Thank you, Mark. Oh my goodness. Jennifer Pestikas. She's my friend. But in addition to that, she's an executive with over 20 years of experience in the financial services industry. She is currently the Chief Experience Officer of a Chicagoland financial institution. Jen understands the necessary skills to make significant leaps in your career, including mindset, asking for what you want, interviewing skills, the ability to negotiate, professional presence, and more. In addition to her corporate work, Jen leverages her experience with her professional company, Brave Women at Work. At Brave Women at Work, Jen offers individual and group executive and leadership coaching for women. She helps her clients better identify their strengths, what they want, what is holding them back, and how to remove these barriers so they can take bolder and braver actions in their careers. You can find Jen online at bravewomenatwork.com. You can also connect with her on LinkedIn. She has a podcast, Brave Women at Work, with over, ready for this, 270 episodes and over 100,000 downloads. And that can be found on podcast platforms all over the place. And ready for this, there's even more. Okay, she has an anthology on Amazon, Brave Women at Work, and I was actually honored to be one of the authors in the anthology series. Jen, welcome to the Infuse Compassion podcast.
Oh man, Amy and Mark, I am just so pumped and excited and humbled to be here. So thanks for having me.
Oh my goodness. There are so many directions that I want to go, Jen, but I'm going to start here because this is something that is really meaningful to me. Tell us the story behind the work that you do with women.
Well, I will start here. I didn't, like so many things in our lives, I didn't know or think it was coming. I started in a male-dominated industry. And even before that, when I was a kid, this is a fun fact, my dad was a history and economics major, and he was a high school principal and a teacher, but he also was a visionary. And so he asked my brother, Jim, and I, he said, hey guys, as you guys get older, do you want to work at McDonald's? No offense, McDonald's. Or do you want to own a family business? And so we started a lawn service that started from door to door in the back of a 1977 Chevy Caprice, mint green. And so we started with 10 lawns, and then my brother ended up taking it to 200 lawns before he sold the business, and he used it for the down deposit on his home where he lives. And so I would say that's kind of, you wouldn't expect a young girl to do that. So kind of what you would think that would be more of a male dominated space, lawn cutting. And it just kept continuing, both of you. So I was in investment services. I worked for financial advisors, brokers, if you will, during the .com era. I did stock trades. I worked for a mutual fund company. And so I learned to put my feminine away. So I was really, really more forward masculine. It rewarded me. until it didn't, pretty much. And so I say, when people say, well, why are you a coach? Why do you do this work? So when Borders and Barnes and Noble were a thing, don't you remember those years? It was so cozy and like cuddly and just like the chairs. I miss those days. It's not the same getting your book on your doorstep from Amazon. And so I was in a Borders or a Barnes and Noble, and I often was in the self-help section, which has now been recoined personal development. But at the time of Louise Hay and all of those, it was self-help. And I knew like I wanted to do something different, but I kept pushing it down. I kept, kind of keeping to a safer script. So I knew, even in 2004 when coaching came on the scene, I knew I wanted to be a coach. But I was deep into a masculine industry, and I said, nope, I'm gonna push off on that. Then in 2016, so it was like about 12 years later, I told my husband, I said, I really want to be a coach. I really want to help like people. I didn't know if it was women at the time. I just knew I wanted to help people. And he was like, no, you're knee deep. We're knee deep in the banking space. We're knee deep in this, right? And I'm scared too. I'm not, vilifying him. I was scared. And he said, okay, well, we'll test it. We'll put a test on this. If you can get your coaching certification paid for, every penny, we'll see what happens. And guess what? I did. So I wrote a recommendation, pitched it, and got my certification paid for, thank goodness, by a great boss. And I did my certification with IPEC, the Institute for Professional Excellence in Coaching. It was a great 9-month program. And then I still put the dream away. And then it was 2019 where, after having getting through a couple pregnancies, like starting a family, my body kept the score. And I went through the burnout. And when I went through the burnout, I started listening to my intuition. So for a long time in those masculine industry days, I say I broke up with my intuition. So I broke up with it, and then I had to like make up with my intuition during the healing of the burnout. And that's when a calling came to me. So I love to walk outside. And while I was on that walk, it was like a divine download. And it said, you need to start a podcast. So, of course, erroneously, I told my family and friends, I go, guess what, everybody? I'm going to start a podcast. And they're like, that's a bad idea. You just burnt out. And so thank goodness I listened to my own heart, because it was the path to meeting you, Amy, and Mark, and so many other wonderful people in my life. It was the path to my healing. And the name Brave Women at Work also came in another walk, divine download. And then I went right to, where you go to GoDaddy to buy your URL. And I went and I go, there's no way that bravewomenatwork.com is available. And it was for like, 1 penny, and then like a monstrous amount of paywall after. And so that's the story, both of you. That's how I came to discover how I wanted to work with women.
That is incredible. I thank you for sharing that. I want to dig a little bit deeper on a couple of things that you said, because I think there are a lot of, I'm going to say people, because it may not just be women that experience this, but you said, I learned to put my feminine away. And you said, I pushed down to a safer script. I want you to talk about what that felt to take who the core of Jen is and say, we're going to minimize you.
So it's really, really hard to do it to yourself. It's really hard to put your authenticity away, your authentic self away. And I think everyone deals with this, but I have maybe healthier fear, more healthy fear, or more fear than the average bear. And I knew I was swallowing myself. I knew I was swallowing my authenticity whole, and it didn't feel good. But what happens is, when you don't trust your own intuition, that inner like guidance system, you start making excuses, and time starts passing, and a promotion comes. And then before you know it, you have half a golden handcuff, Then your lifestyle comes to meet it. Then you get another promotion because you're really good. And then you're in full handcuffs before you know it, and you can't get out. And I don't think it doesn't have to be, a male dominated industry. It doesn't have to be anything like my story, but people relate. And then all of a sudden we start making excuses for why we're not living the life of our dreams, the career of our dreams that we had as children. We kind of start getting to like that duller version. I'm thinking of the fun cartoon Inside Out, where you were joy and now you are sadness.
Thank
I
you.
love that description. So I want to follow up on something that Amy said in your introduction, and then it ties to what you're saying here too. The phrase jumped out to me that you help women who are ready to take leaps in their career. And I thought of that word leaps in terms of what we usually do, which is climb the ladder, right? And so this follows really with what you were just saying. How can someone know when they're at that point when they really do need to take a leap rather than just climb the ladder?
Well, I'm going to quote another one of our friends, Natalie Benamu of her C-suite. So she taught me something. So I always, like so many people, it was about the ladder, right? It was about climbing the ladder. She talked to me about the career lattice, which I'm always going to attribute to her, because I was like, oh, I can actually go down or lateral, and I'm actually should not be ashamed. And so that is one tidbit. So I learned that from her. And again, I will always attribute that to her. But the answer to your question, Mark, about leaps is it starts getting so uncomfortable and painful to be in your situation that minute action steps just aren't cutting it anymore. So like we make excuses and we're like, what's the smallest amount of action? I talk to my clients a lot about this. And if they still take that action and they're just not feeling good, it's an indicator. It's like a warning light on your car that you're like, I need more. I need more attention. I need more action. I need more whatever I need to get to where I need to go farther and faster. That's what it's felt like for me.
Now, how has this is big here. How has compassion impacted and influenced your healing process? Because when you talk about burnout, like, listen, separate from this, I've heard your story, right? I've heard your story. So I heard, oh my goodness, like that's a whole nother episode to just get into both of your burnout stories.
Yes.
But talk about the compassion and how that's helped your healing process.
So I'm going to tell you, and it's not because I'm on a podcast that's talking about compassion. It was a monstrous part of the prescription for healing for me. So as a recovering perfectionist, people pleaser, performer, I was the good girl, the gold star chaser, freaked out when I got my first B. I know I'm a nerd. I mean, so I I just did all those things, right? I had such a high bar, like it was like a death by a thousand cuts, like how high my bar was for myself. And what I did was I transferred that bar to other people. And then just recently, actually, I realize now my place in it, the responsibility I need to take in. I actually set those bars that high, right? Before it was like I'm blaming everybody else. And now as I'm maturing in this work, in this space, I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like I have a role in this, right? It's not like I'm being mean to myself. It's just like really settling into myself and taking ownership. And so I had to start dousing myself. Like if you think of like a shower of self-compassion, that's like what I was doing. It's just like if I made a mistake, instead of like going to that high expectation, I'd be like, I'm doing the best I can. I just burnt out. I'm actually doing pretty darn good. When I did my first podcast and I listened to it and I was like, that's terrible. And then I was like, but it'll get better. Right. So I was always like parenting myself with compassion, showering myself with compassion, and learning who to surround myself with. So I say this to people, like I would tell my dreams to like family or friends, love you all if you're listening. but maybe they weren't the right people sometimes because I was like flying my plane to a different altitude and they weren't with me on the same altitude. So, yeah, compassion has been a monstrous part of my healing.
I want to follow up with what you just said there too, Jen, because I was going to ask a question a little bit differently, and now I'm reframing it based on what you said. You mentioned even when you were going to start the podcast, the people were going, bad idea. How do you counsel people? How do you help people who are trying to follow that dream, who get the downplay from other people? And so it's a two-part question. How do you manage the people who come in and kind of discount your dream? How do you find people that can help support that dream?
This has been a hard one for me. So, like a real human response. So, for a long time, I was stuck in my head. I started believing what people, I mean, yes, I was doing the podcast, but I was doing it kind of half heartedly. I wasn't putting my whole self into it because I was so worried about people when what they were saying, like I was going to burn out and like this, why was I doing this? Why was I crazy to do this? So I started believing that. But then as I started like meeting people like both of you and like Natalie and Hope and like Stephanie and Shigs, like, I mean, the list is like ridiculously long that I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. Like I just started kind of getting out of my own stuckness and getting like, and then again, flying that plane a little higher. And I've had to learn as a people pleaser just recently that just because someone doesn't understand or believe in what I'm doing doesn't mean I need to take that on. And before I'm like a master fawner. And I thought fawning was just playing dead, but it's also playing alive as a people pleaser. And I would be like, oh my word, so and so doesn't like that I'm doing it. And I was taking on all that energetically. And now what I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. Like you don't may not believe in me, but I believe in me. Like you may not believe in my podcast, but I believe in my podcast. And so I have to kind of go like, I'm going to energetically separate from you, even though I love you, even though you're my family or my dear friend, and I'm going to energetically protect myself. And with the work I'm doing now, just recently, I went to 3 dear friends and I said, can you be part of my friend crew as I start like a speaking career? Could you please help me as I'm absolutely terrified to get on more and more stages and bigger ones? And so I have 3 women in my friend crew that I call on and I'm like, I'm about to go on stage. Just tell me I'm awesome. And they're like, you're awesome. Go do this thing. I'm like, thank you. And then I just hang up and then I go do the thing. So I've learned that I can love my family, but I don't need to take on their feelings about what I'm doing.
I want to follow up on one phrase you used there. I think I know what it means, but I want to make sure all our listeners do too. You used the phrase energetically separate from some of those people who are more the naysayers. What do you mean by energetically separate?
So the deeper I get into this work, I mean, I believe, well, I've learned a lot about the nervous system and I understand that everyone is made of that energy, right? And everyone's transmitting and receiving energy, whether we believe it or not. And as I get deeper in this work, I'm an empath, so I can feel like obviously I feel very good energy coming off the screen, right? And when I get off this podcast, thank you. I mean, it'll make the rest of my afternoon, right? Where I'm just like, whatever crises face me after this, I'm going to be like, whatever. I had a great half hour with Amy and Mark. Who cares, right? Because energetically, I hope I'm filling you as you're filling my cup, right? And so I think it's just something that we as humans have not been trained, but it's something to consider. So if you are on the phone with someone, then you get off the phone. How do you feel? How do you feel in your body? Do you feel like really excited and revved up and like pumped? Or do you feel like you need to lay down? And so it's that kind of energy is what I'm talking about. And you don't need to be a PhD or do the work that we all do or be a coach. You can just like tap into yourself and say, how do I feel at the end of that interaction? And that's why I've had to separate, because at the end of some of those interactions, I felt badly about myself, or I felt like I was less than, or that I was empty, which is not okay. It's not okay for me to do that to someone else, and it's not okay for me to receive it on the other end.
I love that you followed up on that, Mark, because I know Energetically, like you say that, Jen, and I'm like, yep, I'm right with you. I absolutely do that as well. But I know that there are people that are listening that may not know that. So thank you. Jen, I I've hear how you've presented in every interaction that you and I have. You are always the brave women at work. Like you are literally who you are putting out into the world. You represent that so beautifully. But I want you to really take a minute and tell us, what does it mean to be a brave woman at work? Because I'm going to guess that there's a lot of work that you had to do to get here to this place that you're at right now.
Yeah, it's a really good question. It's an evolving answer. So I would say people don't believe me when I say this, but I was the shyest kid. I really was. I was the wallflower. My mom, I know, cried because it's seventh grade dances. Do you remember middle school dances? They're terrible.
Terrible.
They're terrible. They're so embarrassing for everyone involved, right? And I'm sitting, on this, like, at the wall, and I'm like so afraid and like so freaked out, and, it's just painful. And so I would say that whole brave women at work is the ability to really trust yourself, really ability to tap in, the ability to learn how to understand that the thoughts you have about how you're not good enough, or you have those doubts, or you can't do it, or who do they think you are, all that stuff is just noise. And I've lived it so long that it's just such a derailer to our dreams, but it's part of the human condition. Anytime someone says, like, you can just, get rid of your imposter syndrome, I'm like, okay, that's not true. Anytime you level up, and this isn't mine, but it's like new level, new devil, right? So you get to another job, you get to the new devil comes up. Then, get to a new level, you get to a new devil comes up, right? So it's going to rear its head. It's understanding how to manage it. And that is brave, right? I'm going to say that I have to share this story because I think it's just so touching. My daughters, teaching them to have a voice, to look at people in the eye when they order their meal at a restaurant, right? That's brave, right? It doesn't need to be like, I just negotiated a big job or a promotion. It can be like, you know what? I looked at someone in the eye, right? When they didn't look at me. Or I stood my boundary, even though they were upset. But the one that I have to share, which is so touching, is I want to give a shout out to my 7-year-old daughter, Olivia. Olivia has a hair disorder, and she was born that way, and we didn't know. We had no idea. And so at about 4 or 5, I took her to a hair specialist because I'm like, hello, I've never had to get this child a haircut. This is odd. And so I took her to doctors, and I found out she had a rare hair disorder where her hair isn't really rooted in the scalp. So it kind of like just falls out, or it's not full alopecia. She has beautiful curly, but it's just really short hair. So if everyone listening can envision Annie, that's Olivia. She looks so cute in her short hair, curly. And where's the curly hair coming? It's coming from God himself, because let me tell you, no one in my family has curly hair. And it's like corkscrew curly. Like, it's really interesting. So I got a response from her. This is, she's getting older, kids and socialization and all this kind of stuff. And within the last 6 months, she has been hot on my tail to get her a wig. And so I applied for a wig for her in one program, which we just got approved. And then I also took her to the woman that I know that's a hair loss specialist. And she said, Mom, I want to buy this wig. And I have to tell you, I went into the other room. I cried really quick because I was so afraid. Am I doing the right thing? How is she going to be brave through this, right? How are we going to do this? But still, I told my husband, I'm like, guess what? We're getting some airline miles tonight because we're buying a wig. And so we bought the wig, and she wore it to school. And she was afraid. She was really afraid. She cried. I talked to her. I talked to her teacher. I talked to the social worker. But later that day, her teacher sent me a picture of her in the wig smiling. And let me tell you, that's brave. So it's not one thing, it's everything. It's how you live your life. It's how you move through your life. I'm getting like emotional. how you move through your life. And the reason I'm so on the train, and this applies to men too. It's just that I have struggled so much in my own skin as a female, as a woman. And now God gave me two daughters. Of course, He gave me two daughters. So it had to be Brave Women at Work. So hopefully that answers your question, Amy.
Beautifully. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's an amazing answer. And huge shout out to your daughter for demonstrating bravery,
Yeah.
even at her age. We learn so many lessons from our children and our
Yes.
families, and that's part of what we do. Boy, we could go on and on and on and on, but I just looked at the time and realized, wow, we're deep into this podcast. So I'm going to put this one out there, and then Amy, I'll throw it to you for any last questions. Where can people get more of Jen and the work you're doing with Brave Women at Work?
Yes. So thank you guys so much. So you can connect with me on LinkedIn, just under my name. I have two pages, but I'm more active under my name. So just look up Jennifer Pestikas, and I know that'll all be linked up in the show notes. And then I have two websites. So I have bravewomenatwork.com, and you can get the books wherever books are sold. You can find the podcast off there. All of that's there. And then I have to put a plug. Our latest in the anthology is coming out in April. I know this will go later. So the ebook and the hardcover will be out. April for the ebook at time of recording, June for the hardcover. So that'll be out on the website. So you can go and grab that, since we're talking a lot about authenticity. And then last but not least, I just launched a speaker site. So jenniferpestikas.com for my speaker site. So if anyone's interested in having me do a keynote, feel free to contact me.
Fantastic. And I just want to add that Jen has spoken at mine and Mark's conference, and she is absolutely dynamic. And not only do we want speakers that can show up and deliver, but along the way, when you're putting on a conference, it's no joke. It's a lot of work, right? So we need people that are showing up when we need them to show up, that are delivering the materials that we need. And Jen made all of this so easy. So if you're looking for a speaker, folks, reach out to Jen. She is the one to reach out to. Jen, I have another question for you.
Let's go.
Okay. Please share with our listeners, our beautiful compassionators, what is one tip of how they can infuse compassion into their life this week?
So one thing that I would tell you to infuse compassion into your life, kind of rounds us out, is to really listen to yourself. Really listen to yourself so that compassion can come forward. So when I didn't listen to myself, it almost blocked that compassion, that self-compassion. So therefore, I couldn't give my gifts to the world, which is compassionate, right? Sharing your gifts with others is an act of compassion. But we have to listen and love up on ourselves so that we can release those gifts to the world. So listen to yourself. Listen to yourself this week.
That was beautiful. And I love the way you said it. Listen to yourself so that the compassion can come forward. Like, there's such a visual. I have such an image in my mind when you say that. Jennifer, I don't know why I called you your full name.
That's okay.
You're Jen with one N. Jen with one N. Jen, thank you so much for being our guest today. This has been incredible. A long time coming. We've been talking about this, and there is so much wisdom. There's so much heart. There's so much grit and bravery here. I want to thank you for how you show up. I want to thank you for everything that you're doing in the world. There's like, I can't even imagine all of not just the women, but the people that you've impacted through your podcast, through your anthology. Are you at 5 books in your anthology now?
Yeah, this is the 5th. Yep.
The 5th. Everything that you're doing, I'm picturing you in an organization and what it must be like for women at that organization that are more junior or maybe don't have the confidence level and the bravery that you have, what it's like to have you as a role model. I want to say thank you. Thank you for how you are showing up in the world. You are making a difference, my dear. And for all of our listeners, thank you so much for showing up. It is such an honor and such a pleasure for Mark and I to be on this journey with you. Please like, please share, please reach out if you want to come be a guest. And thank you. I hope everybody has a great rest of week. And don't forget to always infuse compassion into the world, folks. Bye.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Infuse Compassion podcast. If you enjoyed the conversation, please share a review and like the podcast so other compassionators can join us. Until next time, let's all do something each day to infuse compassion into the world. For more information on our guests, see the show notes. For more information on Mark and Amy, go to infusecompassion.com.